right, welcome back to the Fan Forum podcast. You got me right now. We're hoping that Mr. Scarcella joins us soon, but something may have come up. But I have a feeling he'll be logging in to give us his 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cents shortly. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody out there who's been watching this. I know it's just a Detroit Lions podcast, and they only play a couple months out of the year, but it means a lot to myself and Hitch and Wayne, and I just want to say thank you. If you haven't subscribed, that's another thing, and you're listening right now, please make sure you subscribed onto whatever app you're on. If you're listening to us on Spotify, please subscribe. If you're listening to us on YouTube or watching, make sure you've hit the notification button too. We're going to be releasing a lot more shorter videos at a higher frequency rate in the off season. And then we'll go back to our more like live form, 1 hour long in season episodes. That way the fans can interact while the games are going on. We know there's not a lot to talk about off season, but the goal of this podcast is just to be consistent. So whether it's 6 people that listen or 283, I just want to say thank you to everybody. And again, subscribe, like, notify. If you don't mind too, sharing some of these videos helps us get out into the algorithm a little bit more. I know everybody's tired of seeing my Facebook posts, but again, it's been hard. We have to be consistent at it. So just wanted to take 2 minutes out of your time to say thanks. While we're waiting for Hitch, came up with a cool concept for an episode, and it's top 5 most Detroit athletes ever. And it's kind of funny. I thought this would be a lot easier than it is, but being that there's no wrong answer, but it struck up some good conversation. So I was sitting there on the couch yesterday thinking, what can we talk about in the off season? And we just finished watching the Pistons series. We were watching, I think, a Tigers game, and they were up 11-3, and just feeling this resurgence of Detroit sports. And I'm thinking to myself, who is Detroit sports? Sorry, who are they? Who are the ones that we identify as our top 5 people when we think of Detroit sports? So I start going through a list, and it's really hard to put 5 down on paper, right? I start thinking about all the bad boys, all the grind line wingers, all of the bless you boys Tigers, the going to work Pistons, the current Detroit, I don't know if you want to call them the all grit Lions under Dan Campbell. Everybody drafted and signed by Scotty Bowman in free agency. It's really hard to narrow it down. And I asked Hitch to give me his top 5. And I told him, keep it within an age range where people know or people are relevant with some of these players, right? Because I'm a nostalgic person, but he definitely is way more nostalgic in a certain sense than I am, especially with rosters. He's very good at the, how do I say this, almost before we were born players. Maybe that's because he's, what is he consideration? He's still in the greatest generation, I think. What was he doing for World War II? He wasn't old enough to get drafted, but still young enough to tell me stories all the time. But I just think to myself, and I'm like, no, this is just going to be so easy. Everybody's going to name the same 5 players. And I'm like, wait, I'm even having a hard time naming the same 5 players. Then I named 5 different players today because I rethought about this as I was asking people questions. So I put it out on Facebook, and we had a couple people respond. Jake was kind enough to respond, but he has a hard time counting. He did give me 5, even though he said, sorry, I gave you 6, but he gave me 5. So, Jake, thanks for participating. I really appreciate it, but you can't count, brother. So really what it comes down to is I heard names for like Ty Cobb. Okay, so we're getting old. Al Kaline. Got an Al Kaline today from a wrestler named Chinstrap Jesus. We got a I don't want to spoil hitches, but we heard Draper. We heard McCarty, right? We got some Nick Lindströms, some Stevie Y's, and I knew that's where we were going, right? I knew everybody would go right to the hockey, but the one that didn't surprise me was Barry Sanders, and you got to go with Barry. Obviously, we're a Lions podcast. There's going to be a Lion in there, but Barry Sanders is about as Detroit as you can think of. I don't know if anybody remembers going downtown, and we'll say the 90s, and the only thing positive, the only thing nice about downtown was the Barry Sanders mural on the building. I don't even know the name of the building. There was a dolphin, I think, up there for a while. But you're talking about a guy who was the face of a city when we were probably at our worst. You know, I know the 70s were bad for Detroit. The 80s still kind of had their cool flair, but I don't really think there was nothing cool about the city of Detroit in the 90s. I was alive, I was kicking, that was my era, and I don't remember. It was more of just a no-go zone. There wasn't anything down there to do. There wasn't a reason to go inside the city limits outside of a Tigers game at Tiger Stadium. Shit, they played it in Pontiac. The Lions played in Pontiac, so the face of Detroit is in Pontiac. But I digress. Barry still to me, and it seems like to everybody, I really can't think of one person who did not name Barry Sanders. So we'll just automatically put Barry locked in at number 1. There's no reason to argue. It's Barry. It's always going to be Barry. So we'll leave that at number 1. Now, number 2, I found it kind of interesting. I thought it would be more of from, again, not so much from the hockey sense. I thought it would only be from the hockey guys that would have picked Stevie Y. Now, I love Stevie Y. I really do. He wasn't on my list. I put Darren McCarty on there. But I think if you look at Stevie Y, again, similar to Barry, he comes here in the Dead Wing era, in the mid-'80s. The town's shitty. And he stuck with us in his entire career. Won numerous cups. Was a heartthrob for lots of women in the 90s. I mean, Stevie Y was a stud. Still is. He's a good-looking dude for an old fella. But I think those two right there are the unanimous, locked in. You can't question it. You can't say, yeah, but him. Or how about this? Like, find me a Detroit sports fan who's going to try and knock Barry and Stevie Y off that list. Now, I can think of one friend who would have done that. And let's see what Alex picked. Even Alex picked Yzerman. Now, this is a friend of mine who, mind you, is an Avalanche fan.
Mr. Allen is the man with the plan to save you money. Watches, coats, new arrivals, boots, Dickies, Nike, Tornado, $250. Mr. Allen saving you money.
All right, so we're at Barry. We're at Stevie Y, which, to me, those are two no-brainers. I get it. They've been here forever. Their entire careers were here. One won some champions. One did not. It's understandable. It's okay. Oh, so it just leads us down a whole nother road. And I'll tell you what. I'm going through some messages right now. This is where things start to fall off. Okay. 3, 4, and 5 kind of starts to go all over the place. So I'm going to name some of the guys that got. Let me tell you what, Hitch, when it comes to technology, ladies and gentlemen, he shouldn't even be allowed near it. Okay. The city of Grosse Pointe should take the internet away from just him. His wife, his daughter, they can have it. He's only allowed VCRs. He's only allowed a radio, AM and FM transistor radio. He gets a pager, and he gets a flip phone, but that's it. You give him an email, he's lost his mind. Hitch, I love you, but it can't be this hard to log in. Wayne, over in Canada, who isn't allowed to have Draft Day on Netflix, still has to praise the king and queen every night before they go to bed and toast them with a glass of tea. Even he can get into Riverside Hitch. Anyways, okay, back to my conversation about 3, 4, and 5. So we got, these are the ones I got to like 1-2 votes on, okay? Sheed, that was me. No, it wasn't me, actually. Who was Sheed? I don't remember. Anyways, Mr. Ball don't lie. He's about as Detroit as you can get. So there's nothing to argue about any of these guys I'm about to name, right? The only knock on Sheed is, and it's not his fault, I guess, but he spent a short amount of time here. Now, when he was here, he was a champion for the city. He still is, and he got us a ship. So I love Rasheed Wallace on this list. But unfortunately, he didn't crack the 3, 4, 5. Ben Wallace. Now, this was one of my suggestions. Big Ben. Revitalized his career here. Everything he did was here, right? He went to Chicago on a big deal and kind of fell off. But Fear the Fro, he was the opener in the Going to Work intro, swinging the sledgehammer. I think everybody had a Fro wig. Need I say more? The championship belt. I think that was actually Sheed. It was the WCW heavyweight belt. But just those two guys alone. Hard to argue that, right? That they're not on the top 5. But they didn't crack the top 5. Another Piston was Bill Lambier and Rick Mahorn. Now, Wayne tried putting these guys as a combo, which I get. But again, there was no combos allowed. You had to stick with your top 5, and that was it. So I'm a huge Rick Mahorn fan. I've got a Rick Mahorn jersey. I've worn it before on the podcast. Hard to not be a Bill Lambier fan just by the way he played. And not only was he a Detroiter when he was a Piston, but he was a coach in the WNBA. Still lives here. Big part in the community. Along with Rick Mahorn, he still lives here too. Guys that didn't hit there, but there was one Piston that did crack the top 3, and that was Isaiah Thomas. Okay, so when I tell you that it was really hard for me to narrow down, and that's why I picked Rick Mahorn, because he's a little bit more Detroit, right? Isaiah was the face of the franchise, but that did not come without some fanfare from his attitude. Him and Michael still don't get along. I feel like a lot of fans, I don't want to say turned on him, but once he left, he wasn't Isaiah the Great, right? I mean, the two guys I just named, Stevie Y and Barry, are legends wherever they go. And I'm not saying Isaiah isn't, but he did make this list because a lot of people brought up the name Isaiah Thomas. So you think about what he did for the Pistons. You think about what he did for the city. 89, 90, Bad Boys. The only team really to dethrone the Lakers and teach the Bulls how to play defense and play basketball and get stronger and bigger. I have his Not Bad Boys picture, sweeping the Lakers for the first time, Detroit Free Press hanging up right here. So it's hard not to say that, right? And I had to put him on there because so many people picked him. So maybe not the sexy pick, but has to be on the list. Barry, Stevie Y, and Isaiah. Okay, so we've got those three covered. So 4 and 5. Well, one of them, we'll say one of them just so happens to be a Tiger, right? So now in between that, let's think about, and one of them could be a potential Red Wing, right? Let's think about some other big Detroit names. This was one that didn't make the list, unfortunately, but Darren McCarty. I don't know how much more Detroit you can get. Not only was he so crucial on the ice, I could go through 30 minutes in naming the series that everything about him, right? But he stuck around after. He's on Woodward Sports. He's even involved in wrestling. I know he is a big opponent of Chinstrap Jesus. And I see the guy in commercials. You think he's got his own weed company. He's on the radio. He does everything. He is Detroit, right? He fought for this city. He fought for another player that I thought would make this list too, Chris Draper. I mean, he got his jaw dislocated and broken in half for this city. So it's kind of interesting that those guys didn't make the top list. Again, there's no wrong answer. It was just who people picked. So there was a very few amount of people that picked McCarty or Draper. I think he got 1 or 2 votes per round. So it was interesting that wasn't everybody's first choice, right? So you look at the Tigers, because obviously we haven't picked a Tiger yet. I mentioned in the beginning, Ty Cobb got thrown out there by Jacob. That's definitely a throwback name. I will say that, but I don't know if I would say he is the epitome of what I think of when I think of a Detroiter. From what I understand, we weren't even born when he was around. And I don't know. I guess at being such a legend in the sport, he was maybe going for somebody who has represented the city for a long time. Maybe I could see that angle, and I can respect that angle. But he was not one that was picked quite often. We did have an LK line. I mean, he is Mr. Baseball, Mr. Tiger. We did have 1 vote for LK line, and you can't really argue anything that guy's not done for the city of Detroit. But K-Line's Corner, he broadcasted, he's been on commercials, he's been on everybody's TV show. He's since they drafted him, he's been a figure of the community. So still, the question was the top 5 most Detroit athletes, right? So when you think of the city of Detroit and you're identifying the city of Detroit, only one person picked out K-Line. So a little food for thought there. And then we had quite a few for, we had 1 or 2 other Tigers pop up before we get to number 4 and number 5. We had Alan Trammell, who is my all-time favorite Tiger. He was a coach for the Tigers. He is currently, I want to say, a coach in the AA organization right now. He's still, I believe, affiliated with the Tigers. But obviously, he's not everybody's favorite. He's not, what you think of when you think of Tiger baseball anymore. Maybe if you were 20, 30 years older than I am. But these guys actually did come up that were Tiger players. And I agree with one, but I don't know if I agree with the other, right? So I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Miguel Cabrera. I mean, what's not to agree with that, right? We've got uh, every single human on this earth, when he was tracing the Triple Crown record, knew who Miguel Cabrera was. I still watch the video when he teed off on Mariano Rivera, the closer. And this was Mariano in his peak, right, against the series and the Yankees. And he battled him and battled him and battled him. It took one right over dead center. I mean, again, I could probably do 45 minutes to an hour just on my favorite Miguel Cabrera moments. But him being on this list really solidified his time in the city because it was a lot of no-brainers picking Miggy. I would say the only one that came close to Miggy is the next gentleman on this list, obviously, was a Tiger, and that was more of a tie with another Lion, and I'll get to that. But, and this is why I want to have this discussion on this episode, because Miggy is a no-brainer for me. As soon as he was traded here, he made he took every opportunity to let everybody know he wanted to be a Tiger forever. He did everything he possibly could to win us a championship. He moved over to third base. He would have moved anywhere for anybody. Not one single player in the MLB has a bad thing to say about him. He's always represented the city of Detroit in the utmost professional manner outside of his DUIs. That was early on in his career, and he quit drinking. He still lives here. He lives in Grosse Pointe. I mean, for you East Siders, everybody pretty much knows where Miguel Cabrera's house is, and he's just a really nice guy. He kind of fell in love with us, and we fell in love with him. So not only was he a phenomenal athlete, the Triple Crown, the countless MVPs, the batting titles, the this, the that, but we were having a discussion this past weekend, is he our Mickey Mantle? Right? Is he the Mickey Mantle of this era because of what he's done just over that plate? I mean, it's something I want everybody to think about, because everything that Miguel Cabrera has done over his lifetime of his career has been absolutely legendary, and legends never die. So, yeah, think about your favorite Miggy moments and put them in the comments if you're still listening. I want to hear about it. So then number 5, this is where I think even I had a hard time deciding with the tiebreaker and where we were going to go. It's really hard to pick, but I'm picking Calvin Johnson. The other option was Justin Verlander. He got a ton of votes. Calvin got a ton of votes, but they were the ones that were neck and neck. And this is the only reason why I think I'm picking Calvin, because he never gave up on the city of Detroit. He may have gotten pissed off at the Lions. He may have gotten really pissed off at the Lions, past organization, and I completely understand. It wasn't a financial thing. It was a respect thing, right? And he could have taken every moment and every ounce and every opportunity to take a shot at the whole city, and he didn't. He's nothing short of professional. His businesses are still here. He pumps a lot of money back into the city. Fairly certain he has a place here. He has to have a place here. But it's not a slight on Verlander either, but I just start thinking about, okay, where's Verlander going to retire? What cap is he going to wear? He's probably going to wear an Astros cap. He won a World Series with them. Although we did draft him, he played the bulk of his career here. I know the whole city was rooting for him when he was the Astros' first World Series that he was in. We wanted to see him win. And it's not a knock on him, but I'm going to have to put him in that 6-7 hole just because Calvin surpasses him on that level. Hard to talk about, hard to really make that decision, because again, there's no wrong answer, and you can argue till you're blue in the face. Somebody that I'm actually ashamed to not think about was Tommy the Hitman Hearns. I had two guys at work bring that up, and if that's not 90s Detroit, I don't know what is. I know I made that comment before about the 90s in Detroit was kind of dangerous, but yeah, that was it. It was Tommy the Hitman Hearns, right? Even the outside of Barry, it was Tommy the Hitman Hearns. He was on Martin, punches Martin right through the wall, sends Martin with the big old pancake face. It's funny going through this list. You really start to think about how good of a city we have for sports, right? All the way from Ty Cobb, all the way now till Jared Goff even got brought up there. California boy represents gritty Detroit. His story alone and how he came here represents Detroit. What he did on the field represents Detroit. The way he rocks the Buffs, the way he leans into the community, the way you see these guys at games, their demeanor says they're here, right? These aren't athletes that are just, hey guys, we got you 5 tickets, go to the Pistons game, you're going to get sit courtside, and they're just like going through the process. These guys are having fun here. You can really tell it's an enjoyable place to be. And I think we saw that with the way the series just ended with the Pistons, is you had little LA hanging out in LCA, which is a terrible arena, by the way. So, okay. All right, I said I was only going to come on here for about 20, 30 minutes. I think that's where I'm about at. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Please tell all your friends. Ask them to subscribe and hit that notification button. You guys are really going to like it in the we'll probably start in the preseason where we start going back to the lives on YouTube weekly. We're hoping that everybody during the season when the games are going gets on there, talks a little trash, adds their input. Even if you guys log in for 3 minutes while we're doing it live and just make small comments, that's fun. I know we had a lot of fun testing it out the last couple of weeks. I want to thank the Doctor and the Do. Check out their podcast, DDW The Forge, on YouTube. They do a really cool, for anybody that was into the 90s, 80s era wrestling when it was good, they kind of do an AI Hollywood characters, pop culture characters, wrestling, where AI books the show and they're just announcing. So if you're someone like me who likes the good old storylines of the 90s and can't stand current wrestling, I would suggest giving their podcast a look. It's called The Doctor and the Do. And then too, big shout out to Lovati Outdoors. I think you need to give them a call for all your landscaping needs. Philip is not only a good friend of mine, but he's also a good customer with Mr. Scarcella. I know they do a ton of business together. He's super reliable. And if you need your grass cut, call Uncle Phil. All right, well, I've just plugged all my friends. Hitch still is going through technical difficulties 20, 30 minutes in. He's called me. He's messaged me. He is just not going to be on this week. So, all right. Well, with that said, there he is. I was just getting ready to sign off. Good God. Hello. And he can't hear me. See what I mean about he needs a VCR?
Still no sound.
But I can hear him perfect. Hopefully he doesn't say anything he's going to regret. All right, well, God bless him, and God bless America. Peace.